Hello there, welcome again to FFS Livestream. We are Fringe Festival support. We are supported by the Mental Health Foundation, and we're here to bring a little bit more sunshine into the Edinburgh Fringe for performers and industry people and everybody up here that's working, according to the papers, in terrible paid conditions. But we'll get to that. This will just bring a little bit of lightness into your life. We are FFS. We have contact details, which will be up on the screen here. You can email us, you can tweet at us and ask questions for guests. We're getting some lovely questions in at the moment, which I'll be asking later on, but all the more, all the merrier. You can also donate to our GoFundMe page if you are so inclined. We are going to spin around and talk to our three guests today, and we have, from left to right today, we have Jim Cameron. How you doing?
Hello, good. Yeah.
Comedian.
Uh-huh.
Third Fringe, fourth Fringe?
Fourth solo show, seventh Fringe as a performer.
Right.
If I've done my maths properly, yeah.
We do want to get like a house abacus for this table, because there's a lot of, how many years have I, they all sort of blend into one, don't they?
They do all blend into one, yeah, it's a strange phenomenon. And actually last year it didn't come up at all, but it was so sort of visible on Facebook that I forget that I wasn't here last year, because I still have memories that simply don't exist.
So you have a foot in the bubble even when you're outside of it?
Yeah, I think once you're in, you're sort of in. Yeah, if you've done it for as long as I have, then, and I'm by no means a veteran, then yeah, it just becomes part of the year, even if you're not actually involved.
And do you look forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends really. This year my show was ready, so I looked forward to it, but if the show wasn't ready, maybe I wouldn't have done.
Have you done that in previous years? Have you come up on a wing and a prayer?
The third show I did was, the well was dry, so yeah, that was a difficult train journey.
I can imagine. We also have Natalie Cutler.
Hi.
Hello. This is your first Fringe?
Yes.
Or first Edinburgh Fringe?
Yeah.
And your show is here? Solo show?
Yeah, it's a solo show. It's on with Underbelly.
Is it a theatre show, a comedy show,
It's a bit
spoken
of a mix.
word?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix of a few things actually. When I first started it, I was saying that it was feminist stand-up comedy, and then a theatre director was like, "No, Nat, it's a play." And I'm like, "Can it be a play if it's just me though?" And you're like, "Yeah, you can have one-woman plays." So yeah, it's a theatre play / comedy with a musical number at the end.
You're ticking all the boxes.
Yeah,
You're just
I'm
in
a Libra,
every
I can't
brochure
make decisions.
category. It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you look at the brochure, the comedy section is massive,
Yeah.
and then the theatre section, and it's actually, I think some people are starting to move across and actually consider, well, this isn't necessarily comedy,
Yeah.
because it's not 100% dick jokes, so maybe I could put it in spoken word, or
Yeah.
maybe it goes into theatre.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we also have Rachel Fairburn.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm all right, yeah.
This is your third Fringe?
My third solo show, yeah.
They're going well so far?
Yeah, I'm having a good time, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, no complaints yet.
You're on quite late.
I'm on at 9:30, but I'm happy with that.
You were saying you were quite glad this is here
Yeah.
because it breaks up the day a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm just waiting all day to go to work, really. I'm trying to find, so the first week, because I was still tweaking bits of my show, I felt like I couldn't leave the flat. And I was like, I just had all my show written around me. It looked like I was having a hard time, but I wasn't. I was just getting things right.
Yeah.
But now I'm a bit more settled.
Have you seen a lot of stuff? Have you been seeing other shows?
No, I've seen absolutely nothing.
Welcome back. Short, unscheduled break for some technical issues there. We had a little issue with one of the cameras, but we're absolutely fine now. Just a quick point of order, quick housekeeping thing. When you write Jim Cameron down on a piece of paper and then incorrectly address Jim Campbell, you look like a massive douchebag. So don't do that. So Jim Campbell, we're now going to either you change your name or we're going to stick with Campbell.
I've done the flyers now, so
Right.
if it's all the same,
No worries.
I will stick with my given name.
Not a problem. And we've already done the Titanic jokes, so we won't do that again. Rachel, you were telling us about your Fringe and the fact that you haven't really seen any shows yet.
No, I haven't. I'm terrible, absolutely terrible. I keep thinking, I'm going to go and watch this, I'm going to go and do this. Because I make a list of things I want to see, and then I don't do any of them. But once I've got my non-comedy friends who are coming up sort of next week for a few days, that's when I'll go and watch things.
I think you have to identify windows, don't you? Like, if I come up just to see shows, if I come up for a Fringe just for a few days, I'll have a spreadsheet and I'll be like, right, I can get from there to there in 10 minutes, and I'll see that and that and that, and I have a really good time.
Yeah.
When I'm here for a month, I'm like, oh, I'll see all those things later.
Yeah.
And then
the last week.
And then I wake up in my flat in London and go, oh, I'm meant to do something.
I'm meant to see all those award-nominated shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To see any of them.
I went to see old James Cameron. And, Natalie,
Yeah.
your first Edinburgh.
Yeah.
How are you finding it?
I'm really enjoying it. I was really nervous for months about coming because I did Brighton Fringe, and I enjoyed it, but it was overwhelming. I found it really overwhelming, and I only did Brighton Fringe for a week slot because you can do a short time there. So when I had to take up a month here and come for a month, I was really anxious about it because I thought, oh God, I had a really hard time just doing a week. I'm like, how am I going to do a month? And I got here, and whether it's because Brighton Fringe kind of strengthened me up and made me understand the festival scene a little bit more, but I'm really enjoying it here, and I don't have any of those anxieties that I had when I did Brighton Fringe.
I think it's that first moment where you get here.
Yeah, it's just ripping off the band-aid.
Yeah.
And I've done that.
Have you been down the mile?
I have, not flyering, weirdly. I went down the mile on accident, I didn't know I was on the mile. Well, you know when you're on the mile because it's crazy, but I didn't know what it was until I was there, and I was like, oh, okay, this is the mile, but I haven't flown there.
I've got to say, I had my first walk down there yesterday, so I think we've been up here 2 weeks. That was the first time I'd actually been down there, and I get really cynical. I think a lot of people get really cynical about the mile. It's like, oh, it's a gauntlet, and there's just people throwing flyers at you and people falling over and doing the tableaus where they're all handing out flyers.
Yeah, that's the worst one, where it's just drama students pretending that they're dead, thinking they're the first people to ever think of it.
Yes.
Clogging up space. Well, I have a tip for that. If you just hold a bunch of flyers, you're left alone. It's because they think you're
Yes.
dead as well. So
Yeah.
I like to
get
put as
through
many
way faster.
lanyards as possible on and have a big bunch of flyers, even if they're not even mine. Just have a bunch of flyers, because then it's like the performer will see you and go, fair enough, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it really picked me up going down the mile, because you just meet all of these people and you're just reminded, oh yeah, it was magical when you first come, and you have that kind of enthusiasm that makes you want to be out there.
Green-eyed kind of enthusiasm, as you say, where it feels like anything is possible, and you just do everything, and you're not sort of jaded by the kind of wear of a month of doing this. Yeah, I miss that. I've not been there once actually this year.
No.
I might take a little nostalgic stroll down there at some point.
It's really good. I'd recommend it. I think I'd recommend it to anybody, because I just found myself thinking, all of these people are here to do the same thing, and
we're
lots
all
of them
in
are
the
just
same
starting
boat.
out. Yeah, I mean that's what this show's all about. It's like trying to bring all these people together, and the inexperienced learning from the more experienced. So the tip about the people lying in the street, I think, is a good one. Also, don't be silly. Don't run about and bash into people. That's not clever. Not that I'm specifically referencing anyone that may have bashed into me yesterday. So Jim, your show. There's a tweet that I've seen this morning that was a bit of a mystery, and I thought, I want to know what that's about.
Okay.
So we can probably put that up on the screen, actually. We can probably put that tweet, the magic of television, we can put that up on the screen. So explain this to us. Explain the diamond ring.
So my show is effectively a pitch to sell a second-hand engagement ring, and it's the story of why I had the second-hand engagement ring, which is obviously a very sad object, and it's effectively, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, but it's about a broken engagement and how I sort of recovered from the sort of big life setback that was, how it affected me a lot more than I expected it to. It had a really detrimental effect on my mental health, to the point where if I can diagnose myself with such a thing, I think I did have a nervous breakdown from it. So it's about sort of experiencing that and the recovery from that, and also working out why something that effectively everybody will go through in their life, which is a breakup, affected me so badly. And I think I've effectively used the show as sort of therapy. And I hadn't intended for that to be the case. I wanted that to be a jumping off point, but it to be a sort of broader exploration of modern love. And there are aspects of that, but it became really personal, and it was just what started happening when I started writing it. It was the stuff that was working, the stuff that felt best, and the stuff that connected the audiences the most. So yeah, it has become a sort of therapy, and now I'm obviously terrified that if I don't lose a limb this month, I won't have anything for next year, but that's just how our brains work, I suppose.
Well, we were talking about this yesterday, about there's a lot more, I think particularly comedians, I think a lot of theatre people for a long time have been writing shows about their own experiences, and often those are very traumatic, tragic things. lots of comedians are moving towards that. Do you think that that's become slightly less kind of what's the word? Relevant? No. Do you think the stigma that has necessarily been attached to that in the past is now lifting, and people are more willing to talk about their feelings?
I think so, possibly. I mean, I can't say I sat down and said, I'm going to do this really personal show where I just pour out my heart. I'd actually intended not to do that, and it just came out. And because pretty much every line in the show is a joke, and that's kind of the format that I've just effectively used comedy as therapy for myself, and not intentionally. I didn't really set out to say, I want this sad bit at the end or this bit here. I don't want to make it really, really personal. It's just that I found that the jokes I was writing were funnier if they felt like they came from a place of truth. And if you're telling a story, if you're telling a narrative, I think that's really important. Like if you're doing an hour of one-liners, it doesn't have to be personal. Or if you are doing, I don't know, if you've picked a subject that you've really honed in on to do an hour of stand-up about, I don't think it necessarily has to have that. But that is, I can't really say there's some sort of grand scheme that I thought about. It's just the way that the cards fell for me, personally.
Rachel, you give quite a lot away about yourself in your show as well. It's quite a personal affair.
Oh yeah, yeah, it is. It's probably like my past shows. This show is like the most honest show I've ever written. Like the whole thing's true, and probably a similar experience to you. I had a terrible year last year. It was hands down the worst year of my life, and it's about everything that happened, a mistake that I made, how people reacted to that, and how I reacted to it, and eventually, getting back to being myself. So, I mean, it sounds hilarious when I say it out loud, doesn't it? But no, I found it easier actually to write this show because I was writing completely honestly, and I wasn't relying on making up scenarios and things like that. And similar to you, like when you look back on something and it was so bad at the time, it's quite, I don't know, it's quite comforting to be able to make jokes about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel that like you had to write about that? Because I felt if I was doing a show, this was the only thing it could be about, because I just wasn't even thinking about anything else.
That's exactly how I felt. Yeah, I was like, I was just thinking, it's been so bad. There's nothing else I can do other than make this into a show. That was all I could do. But it is funny, so don't worry. Nobody's going to be uncomfortable or feel sorry for me. But yeah, I think it's my favourite. It's definitely my favourite show that I've ever written. So that's a good position to be in.
It's a delicate balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, making the audience uncomfortable is something I hadn't really thought about. This. I'm up here with a theatre show, and it's largely about grief. And it only occurred to me this morning that a friend of mine got in touch and said, I'm in Edinburgh, should I come and see it? And without too many spoilers, I know that they've had a bereavement of a similar nature to what we deal with in the show, and I thought, I don't know whether should we have had trigger warnings on this? Should we have kind of flagged that up? Are people going to be uncomfortable?
I think the thing is you can only write about or create what you've been through, and sort of from my point of view, I was a little bit concerned about some of the things that I talk about and how bad I felt and how honest I am. I thought, I wonder if anyone sitting in the audience will, I don't know, feel a bit awkward or get upset. But quite the opposite's happened. I've had loads of messages off people saying, thanks so much for talking about this. You mentioned this certain thing, and it's made me decide that I want to go to the doctors. It's made me sort of look back at things and realise that when I made a mistake, it wasn't actually so bad, and I shouldn't be being so hard on myself. So I think that's really nice. I don't know. I don't ever think, in my mind, unless you're talking about something absolutely horrific.
This is making me think I should have trigger warnings on my show now.
Yes.
See, the thing is, I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think sort of it's sharing an experience with somebody, and you might be putting people off in a certain way because they might think, talk about that. Well, I know that's not for me. I certainly don't want to go along, and they're making a decision before that instead of coming along and thinking. I mean, ultimately, it's a comedy show.
And they could really benefit from it. Like, they might be put off going, but actually, if they did go, they'd take something really beneficial from it that the fear would have initially stopped them from gaining.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So
Which is why I don't have trigger warnings.
Yeah, I don't really think.
Yeah.
So your show is also quite personal.
Not personal in the sense that anything that might trigger something in the audience is from my perspective. It's not my personal story, but there are stories that I have in my show that, are quite horrific. And I did notice after one of my shows there was a few girls leaving that were crying, which is a compliment, a backhanded one.
Depends what they're crying about.
Might
have been the bad outcome.
But it is the ending of my show. Like the ending of my show is a bit not graphic, but it's one of those things that people don't realise is happening in the world. And when you realise it for the first time, like when I learnt it for the first time, it affected me. And that's why I had to write about it, because like you said, you write about the things that affect you or that are personal experiences, and that's the whole point of art, is, you know, to share things with the world that no one else is going to, particularly governments.
Your show is about feminism.
Yeah, women's rights issues.
Covering a history, or?
Yeah, so it starts with like the suffragette movement and World War I, and it just goes through loads of different women's rights issues up until present day, and the stuff that we're dealing with as women now.
And it definitely still is going on.
Yeah.
I was saying yesterday, I saw a tweet from somebody who was flyering and was talking to a man about her show and getting on famously with him, and you know, he was saying, "Oh, I'm interested," and then he said, "Oh, is this a feminist show?" And she said, "Well, yeah, because it's equal." Yes,
Yeah.
I guess.
Feminism is just gender equality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, no, I'm not interested in that." It's like it's 2018.
Yeah.
What a great guy.
I didn't think that was still out there.
Yeah.
But presumably you've got lots of examples in your show that prove that it very much is.
Yeah.
Do you get that a lot? Because you work very closely with feminism.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
other
my
areas
whole
as well.
life is feminism and women's rights stuff, which is why I kind of wrote this show, because that's what I do on a daily basis. But I surprisingly get a lot of men in my show, which is really refreshing. When I first created it, that's one of the things that I was nervous about. I didn't want it to be man bashing. I wanted it to be inclusive for everyone. And over the times when I've toured it, I've had like an actual balanced mix of male and females come into the show. And I occasionally get messages from men that have been to see the show and found me on social media, and they're like, "But you know, I really learned a lot from the stuff you were saying." I talk about the issue around like childbirth and why we name babies after men when a woman does all the work. And a man messaged me and said, "You know, my partner's pregnant and we're really thinking about naming the child after her now." So that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does affect people. Like
Yeah.
people do learn stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, the big thing about gender equality at the moment is I don't think anyone's arguing anymore that people shouldn't be equal.
Yeah.
But they are arguing the semantics of, you know, there's no such thing as the gender pay gap.
Yeah.
And there's-
What does equality mean? That's what people are nervous about,
Yeah.
I think. It's like, okay, if we have it, what does that mean for, you know, the everyday white male man that has had so much of the power for so long?
Yeah.
Then what?
I think the difficulty with this generation is kind of admitting that it's not quite fixed. You know, same with racism. It's like, oh well, that was all dealt with. You know,
It's not.
You know, we ended slavery, and at that point,
Yeah.
and then there was some stuff in the '60s, but we sorted it
Yeah.
all out. And
We were still paying for slavery up until 2015. So, like, when the UK government like ended slavery, they had to do it by paying off the owners of slaves, right? And our taxes were still paying for those payoffs up until 2015.
So you're saying it is sorted now? It's all right.
God.
No, I think we all admit we've got a long way to go on that.
Yeah.
We're just going to cut away to have a chat with Peter Michael Marino, who we spoke to the other day in a lovely cafe in the Greensides. Have a look.
Hello, very
doing?
nice to be here. Good.
Been here
Sun's out.
You've been here a few days. You acclimatised?
I've been traumatized.
Acclimatised.
I've acclimatized. I'm wearing short pants. I didn't do that at all last year. Last year was rainy and freezing every single day. So this is exciting.
Well, we're just coming off the back of quite an unseasonable heat wave.
I understand. I was in London before this, so I did experience that.
Yeah.
And had a show there in a room that was what do they call it? Air cooled, which means they have windows. Don't worry, audience. It's an hour-long show. We'll be all right.
Then you get the wonderful traffic noise as well as a lovely background track.
In London.
Yeah.
Oh, Yeah, and singing, bands of people singing, walking down the street singing. There were games and stuff going on.
Right.
So I had that. Here, though, I have a stage that's right 2 stories down in a courtyard below my venue.
Nice and cool.
So they play music all the time, and I let the audience know right away that that's my backup band, so that they're not distracted. I'm aware they're there. Have you ever seen shows where things happen and the performer just doesn't acknowledge, like that someone dropped a glass and it broke? They just keep going on. It's like, if it's not Chekhov, you can stop the show and acknowledge this. Do we need to get bandages? Do we need a vacuum, a Hoover?
So how many fringes have you experienced?
This is my 5th Edinburgh Fringe performing. My first time, though, I was just directing a show, which, when I say just, it was, I just came, I had directed it in New York, and it was, I just teched the show. And actually, it's funny because I was here for a very short amount of time. I was working in London, so I just came up. And the first show I ever saw, besides my own friend's show, was her friend's show, and it was in the Counting House. And I said, if I ever came back to this place, I want to do my show in this room. And that's literally what I did for the past 5 years. And also, to be honest, when I got back to the train to head back to London, I said, well, never doing that again. Because I was I didn't do any research or anything. I just, it's her show, and I just showed up for it. And I couldn't believe the ridiculous amounts of energy and people. And I just thought, I can't ever go back there. It's not a controlled environment.
And that's what brings you back.
It feels like it's controlled, though.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. I think it's great if you can do that.
I think 7 or 8 years ago, like the first time I came, social media wasn't as big a thing. I kind of feel like Google Maps wasn't a thing, that's for sure.
Right.
That's everything,
Finding your way around.
Yeah. Remember, like the 2nd or 3rd year, like going, I did not use a map the entire time I was here. Like the first year, you're like, what, 2 levels and which green side and which assembly and which. Now it's like, I don't know how much time I have to get from place to place. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
I also like seeing familiar faces. It's like going to summer camp.
Yes. Summer camp is something that comes up quite a lot. A lot of people treat it like, not treat it like that, but experience it like that.
Make that metaphor, that analogy.
It's amazing because this is the most important month professionally in your year, but also at the same time, it's kind of a holiday.
It really kind of is. Yes. It's always that thin line. So I crowdfunded for my show. So of course I want all of my supporters to know that I'm working very hard. So I always feel really weird when I'm like, at the best party, So I try to balance it with at a great party with there were 3 people in my audience today. Then they kind of get an idea that I'm not just messing about.
How do you look after yourself while you're here?
Well, clearly I'm very well groomed.
If the answer's badly, then that's okay.
I think in the past I'll say in the past I've trained before I came, meaning I've trained myself to eat salads more often, or I'll do the treadmill a little bit longer just so that the hills aren't as much of a climb. And this year, the way I trained myself this year was very much mentally. I had a moment in New York about a week ago where I was running to a show that I didn't really want to see. It was more of a, you have I have to see that show and I have to see that show. It was I have to see that show. And I caught myself running in the rain, and it was a long day, and I had a big back, and it was terrible, and I just stopped, and I said, I'm not going. It's fine, I'm just not going to go. And then on the train ride home, I made that commitment here as well, that if I catch myself running like an idiot to get to a show that I don't have a ticket for, that I told someone, I'm coming, I'm not going to go. Because ultimately my own physical and mental health is more important, because my shows will only be the best they can be if I'm in a good mental place.
And you have 2 shows.
I do.
And do you have guest spots as well?
I'm not doing any guest spots at all. Yeah. It's weird. These 2 shows don't really lend themselves to guest spots. I am doing a couple of there's a kids show called Huggers. That's about 8 comedians doing stuff. and I have a few clown bits in my show, very not European clown bits, not Ringling Brothers, red-nosed clown bits. And I kind of think, oh, I could just do those, because allegedly kids find an adult trying to figure out how to open a juice box hilarious. So I know that works, and I know that's 4.5 minutes of me struggling. So that's an easy spot. But yeah, the first few years I did the Fringe, I would do those late night spots, and do like a bit of the show. And I just think that, like, just for the most part, the kind of stuff that I do just never works out of context. And I don't do stand-up, so I can't just go up there and do stand-up. I'd probably rather host one of those things than perform.
What's it like performing for kids? Do kids get the comedy?
So well, it's terrifying. I really think, so I did the show about 7 times in the city, and I did it a couple of times up in the Adirondack Mountains outside of the city. Totally different audience than city kids. And I find that you really have to be 100% authentic. Even more so than I think adults.
Right.
Even when we're in like a room, this a tiny room, I think the kids can read you more than the adults can.
They smell a fake.
I think they can. The fun thing about the kids show for me is that I sort of invented a new character for myself, which is someone who's very timid and shy and inexperienced. But underneath it all, like, I guess to get all method actor-y, I actually am terrified, and I am inexperienced doing shows with kids. I've done lots of shows, but I've never done a solo show that's improvised for kids. I think when they see that, they kind of see something in themselves, in this grown-up, that, like, I don't know, I don't have all the answers. So in a way, they're rooting for me to succeed, and I give myself lots of opportunities to fail, and they like that. What I'm finding difficult here, only having done 2 shows so far, is the accents. Like, I spent an entire show, like, this little kid got up, there's a fun bit in the show where a kid reads a letter, a bad news letter, informing me that I have to do the show. And I asked his name, and he said, Zog. And I said, oh, Zog. Okay, Zog. Good job, Zog. And then Zog just kept becoming a person I referred to in the show. At the end of the show, one of my American friends said, his name is Zach. I literally thought this little Zog, Z-O-G, Z-O-G is a Scottish name. In my head, it was a Scottish name. Yeah. And then I'd ask him other things, like, if you could meet any famous person, who would it be? And they're like, I can't even imitate it because it would be offensive. But they say something, and I don't know what they say, and then I realize they're just saying, like, Harry Potter.
Okay.
It just doesn't sound like it to me. What that taught me is I actually have to speak a lot slower in my show. Because if I'm not understanding them, I can't just do my normal New York City rat-tat-tat-tat-tat the way I talk. So, hey, that's good. I won't sweat as much because I'm talking slower.
And your other show is an adult show.
It is. So the kids show is called Show Up Kids. The adult show is called Show Up, which I did last year. That show is, the premise is not that I have never done a show before. The premise is that I've done so many solo shows and directed and developed so many solo shows that I literally have no material left for a solo show. And the problem is, if I'm not doing something all the time, I fall into a pit of depression, which is totally true, maybe very true for a lot of artists. So I need to do something, and I need you guys to tell me your shitty lives.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of categories, and they tell me the things, and I write them on Post-it notes, and then improvise a one-man show. At the same time, it's also, I'm taking the piss out of the genre of one-person shows. Self-importance, ridiculous amounts of abuse, spontaneously bursting into spoken word. I've just got like a bucket full of tropes that I pull from every show. So.
What we're about is basically trying to get performers to open up a bit more and talk about, bad times.
Yeah.
And I think everybody at the Fringe goes into a sort of PR mode for the entire month, where if anybody says, hey, how you doing? It's like, oh, great, and it's going really well.
Yeah.
We're encouraging people to tell the kind of the darker side. Do you have some bad experiences? What we like is bad stories that turn good.
Yeah.
Because you're back, you come back every year.
Yeah. This morning, due to this blog I was writing, I had to revisit the Joyce McMillan Scotsman review from my very first show that I did here, which was a 1-star review. Which was just, I literally hadn't read the review. It's very short because she was not happy with my show. I guess this is a reverse answer to your question. She was the last person to review the show, and I had gotten all across the board raves.
Okay.
So when the PR person called and said, "Oh, you're not going to like this, you got 1 star from Joyce," I said, whatever. I was fine, because I was already so built up that it didn't matter to me that I didn't get the Scotsman
That's
review.
such an important thing, because the thing is, you find you get 10 good reviews, you get 1 bad review, and
That's the one that
that's the
just
one you think
eats
about.
at you. Yeah. Conversely, I was remembering a couple of years ago, before Shona was the executive director. Forgive me for blanking on who was before Shona. Cat. Oh, sorry. It's early.
Right?
For anyone who's watching this, it's really early. She saw me at Fringe Central. I hang out there a lot. I really take advantage of everything. And now they've got so many great mental health things there. They've got the sanctuary. You can just chill out. You get a massage. They've got a great app this year that you get for free if you're in the Fringe. That you type in I'm feeling anxious, I'm excited, I'm generous, whatever, and then it will figure out which meditation is right for you, and you can do the 5, 7, or 10-minute version. Oh man, I've only done it twice, but it's been really, really good. Anyway, they didn't have that a few years ago, because you know what? Mental health wasn't in a few years ago. I think this was 4 years ago. So anyway, she sees me and, "Hey Pete, how's your Fringe going?" I said, "Oh my gosh, it could not be going better. I have nice houses. The reviews have been great. Lots of, guess what?" And I just start sobbing. And here I am sobbing to the executive director of the largest arts festival in the world, who probably had many other important things to do in that moment, in that hallway in Fringe Central. And she just said, "Okay, you need to stop thinking about your show and go see some other shows." And I said, "That's all I do. I'm running from show to show. I can't. I did that." She said, "Okay, what you need to do is you need to go find a nice patch of grass, take off your shoes, and just lay down on the grass. And that's it. It's your assignment." Okay. I mean, I was it was so embarrassing. And I did. I found a patch of grass. I discovered this little park near Arthur's Seat that has swans. It's what? Yeah, it's in this little enclave, and there's a really beautiful patch of grass there. No one is flyering you on that grass. And it has become a habit ever since then, at least 3 times a week. There's actually a patch around the block from here that I go to, and there's something about taking your shoes off and just grounding yourself with the earth that actually does kind of cleanse you in some way, almost like I do carry a crystal around too that I kind of shake over myself every so often. You know what I think it is? It's I don't know if all artists are super empathic. I am. And so I tend to take on everyone else's energy. So if you're enthusiastic about your show and you can't wait to tell me more about it, it's overwhelming to me. And if you're miserable because things aren't going well and you're Eeyore, then I become Eeyore. So I've gone from Tigger to Eeyore to Tigger to Eeyore, and there's no Christopher Robin in the middle, who's me. So I guess that kind of goes back to I'm not going to run to see a show. I just have to kind of try to a little bit more self-care and being selfish.
It's a problem for performers up here because there's so many shows and you know so many people because you bump into them and everyone has to remember that everybody else is in the same boat. That when someone doesn't come to see your show, it's not because they don't like you. It's because they have to see 3,000 shows.
I know. But there is another side, and that is that some people are in a much more expensive boat.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been here 3 or 4 days. I can honestly say that I am completely oversaturated with about 10 performers, giant posters. Like it's too much. I mean, part of me, of course, is like, well, I wish I had that. And the other part of me is like, I would never want that much exposure. That is just, it just seems like a big jerk-off session. Oh, I'm getting nervous talking about jerking off.
I was going to say,
which also is not a bad thing to do every so often during the Fringe, when you're not performing.
That's your advice.
Is this a PG-13 podcast?
Absolutely not.
The video rating? Social media has also made it like, you know, I've had to kind of unfollow people who consistently let us know exactly how many tickets they've sold.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that is, I don't know how someone can do that.
It's important not to get hung up on those things, I think.
I think it's important for me to not get hung up on that person's
Absolutely.
desire to express their joy.
It's important to remember not to buy into other people's PR because they may not be having as good a time as that, maybe to covering up for
well, like that, isn't that so
things.
true about like so many celebrities? You're like, they have it all, and then you find out like they've been unbelievably depressed and suicidal, and there's this weird balance of what's healthy and what's not, and what is success.
I think that's right, that way you bring up Fringe Central, I think, because their range of services I don't think gets publicised enough. Like the sort of support that is there. I've always felt that there is support if you can find it, but it's not easy to get into that.
See, well, I mean, that's a catch-22, because those of us who are actively reading our emails that they send and looking through I just saw someone yesterday that had no idea that they also got in the mail the participant services booklet with all the how to tour your show, how to meet an agent, how to all that stuff. They just never even looked at it, so they weren't aware. Hey, they weren't even aware that Bar Burrito gives you 20% discount with your Fringe pass. This is important information.
Absolutely.
So it's catch-22 because part of me is like, well, good. There won't be 40 people signing up for a free massage. There'll only be 15 who actually read the freaking booklet. So, once again, being selfish is okay every so often.
Yeah, I think you have to be. You have to. That's the way that you look after yourself. It's not any reflection on you. You're not a bad person for doing it.
You're not a bad.
There's so much pressure.
There's pressure even to like go to the next bar and go to the next bar and like, well, A, you're spending money. B, you're probably not gonna have a great show the next day, and C, it's just more. What's the word? Just energy. You know, you're hearing voices, you're seeing flyers, you're just going home isn't bad. Go home, listen to the app, chill out.
Yeah. So you're in the US the other 11 months of the year.
I am.
And then you're here.
Yeah, I do Fringe festivals in the United States as well, which are nowhere near as, not at all on scale like this.
Yeah.
And there are many American and Canadian Fringe performers who are ridiculously successful at every Fringe they go to in the United States that I think would be really surprised when they came here.
What would be your key piece of advice for somebody that's feeling like it's all getting a bit much?
Well, I think it's really good to talk to somebody. I know that sounds obvious, but I know for myself there's times where I just don't say anything. Unfortunately, I have the kind of face that, like, you can tell the minute the things aren't good, even if I try to work through it. Talking to someone, and I mean, now that we have social media, I mean, even Facebook, which is, I guess, better in a way than Twitter for expressing the negative stuff. It's okay to, like, on Facebook, let your friends and family know I'm having a rough time. And somebody just might say one thing in the comments that will kind of help click the button from 6 to 7 and to 8, you'll get there. So I think talking to somebody is hugely important.
Yeah, being open about things.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, right, we have to know this, that, like, keeping it all inside is just not good. I think it's why we're in show business. Somewhere along the line, we realized I have something to say or I have to express something, and this is the way to, like, I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't build, but I can get up on a stage and not clam up.
We should do that more with our feelings.
Yeah, right. Like,
not
how do you
personal.
put your feelings on stage in some way and just like, I mean, aren't we all trying to connect with people in a way? Right. So since everybody has emotions, then why not be vulnerable when you can be? It's funny, you know, even just the past 2 days, seen a few comedians and stuff, and I have like 2 moments in Show Up that are, I think, very vulnerable, talking about long bouts of depression and how my grandfather basically died of depression. And, you know, I always get very serious in that moment in this wild, free comedy show. And yesterday I had a moment of like, I don't know if I want to do that this year, because I think people are expecting me to be funny. And you know, I know because people have said it, seeing the show before, like, oh my God, that thing, boom. The thing about your grandfather really stuck with me, you know. If you ever need to talk to someone, you know, they like the fact that someone's opening up and being vulnerable and honest about their stuff. But I couldn't believe that I was battling this, like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to go there. I don't know why I would. I don't know why my brain went there. I'm going to go there, but I don't know why my brain, like, thought, just, I was feeling unsteady already before even doing the first show, which is in for 2 days.
Well, fingers crossed, you have a great festival. We will be coming to see your show.
Well, now I'm terrified.
It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
No worries. And then we can probably talk a bit more about Avatar later on, if that's all right with you.
I've got a lot I still want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, hi. How you doing? Yeah, we've just come back. Yeah, I get a lot of stick for that, but I like that segue. I just enjoy it. We're back. That was Michael Marino chatting about comedy and energy and yoga and some little tips. We're going to talk some more about self-care and survival of the Fringe. Natalie, this is your first time. Have you taken steps? Did you do some research and plan how you were going to handle the marathon?
I didn't know. I just came with the idea in my head that I was just going to take it day by day. I wasn't going to overthink anything, and I was just going to not put pressure on myself, which is what I did with Brighton Fringe and why I found it so overwhelming. I just learned a lot from that experience and was like, I'm going to go to Edinburgh Fringe and just enjoy whatever happens. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. And then that day's over and then on to the next day. And that's what I came with. And it's working well for me so far.
And we're getting close to halfway through.
Yeah, and I'm fine. I only had 1 day of burnout.
Right.
I did hit my day. I think it was like my 7th or 8th show where I hit that, like, oh, I'm tired. And so I just took that day to myself then. All I did was my show. I didn't, go out and fly out, or because I'm guest blogging while I'm here as well, so I didn't do any of that. I was just like, I'm just going to wake up late, have breakfast, go to my show, come home, read. And then I was fine again the next day. You just have to, you have to know where your limit is and then take the steps when you're reaching that limit.
What time of day is your show?
It's 2:45 in the afternoon, which is quite good. I don't have to wait all day. I know you were saying you're waiting all day to go to work essentially, and I don't have. When I did Brighton Fringe, my show was 9:30 at night, and it's you feel yourself being
just
like,
waiting.
so middle of the day is good.
How do you deal with that late night?
I was going to say actually, having said that, because stand-up is my job, I'm always waiting to go to work anyway.
Shift work, essentially.
Yeah, so really the only reason that, and to be honest, it is slightly better being in Edinburgh for the month because I'm not travelling.
Right.
So any other weekend, I'd be like, oh, where am I this weekend? I've got to go there, I've got to Birmingham, Manchester, wherever. So at least I'm here, I can walk to work, which is great. But it's just like once you get into the routine, say a week and a bit in, you're comfortable with your show, you can do other things during the day, and you can go and do normal stuff and have a wander around and things. But yeah, I don't, because say from 6 o'clock, that's all I'm thinking about my show. So 6 until I've done it, that's till 10:30. That's the work bit, and then after that, I don't think about it until the next day.
Do you tend to sleep in? Do you adjust your sleep pattern?
No. I'm an early riser. I rarely get up past, say 9 o'clock in the morning is probably the latest that I ever get up.
Right.
And that's if I've had a big night out.
Do you find it hard to wind down after a show though? Because I have that problem. Like I'm wired after a show. I'm like,
I don't know. You know, people say that to me. Maybe I'm just miserable. I go, well, that's done. Let's go and do something else. I'm usually all right.
Yeah.
I don't. But I think maybe because I'm used to it. Because I'm used to gigging and I'm used to doing stand up, and I'm like, oh well. And like I always get nervous before any gig. It doesn't matter how long I've been doing stand-up, I'll always get a little bit of nerves. Get nervous before my own show. And then once it's done, I'm like, brilliant, that's done, I've enjoyed it. And sometimes I just go home and watch TV.
Some people do have trouble like balancing that adrenaline rush that you get sometimes from doing a show. I mean, some people are just very like cold-blooded or sang-froid. Let's get a bit sexy with that. Tiernan Dieup was telling us beforehand he has diabetes, and he finds that those like guest spots in particular, because you get like a dose of adrenaline kind of suddenly going, it's actually really becomes very hard to manage. How do you manage yourself like when you're at the festival? Are you self-disciplined?
Well, I have been this year in particular. I'm not drinking this year because
Apart from water, stay hydrated.
Because I feel like if you spend a year putting a lot of time, emotional energy and money into something, and then you do it hungover for a month, then you're not doing the best that you could possibly do. And also that adrenaline thing, drinking is a really easy thing to do with that, because you ride the crest of that wave very easy, and you're surrounded by friends. It almost feels like being at university here, doesn't it? Because a lot of the buildings are university buildings. You know people all over the place. You even get marked. So it's you have to be quite disciplined with it. But actually, I've found I haven't really wanted to drink once because I'm very sort of committed to that idea, and I can deal with a hangover, I can deal with a headache in the morning, but it's the sort of residual build-up of doom that you have, where you sort of start wondering if you've made bad life choices and you've let your mum down with everything you do. Like, so I've been pretty disciplined with that, because I just want to do the show justice every day. I don't want to come off stage feeling, I'd stayed out too late and I had too much to drink last night, and the show was a bit flat and people are going to go away from it thinking it wasn't that good, and I don't want to do that. So that's my priorities are very much towards that this year. But that's not the same for everybody. Some people can function like that, and I can't. So I've chosen not to.
Some people perform best hangover.
Yeah.
So for some people, that's kind of their act.
Absolutely.
It's a persona. I think it's really interesting talking about burnout, and the important thing being able to recognise it and go, I need to slow down.
Yeah.
Because the whole, some people have said, like, when you come to the Fringe, you think, I'll sleep in September, I'll get over it in September. It's like you need to get there first. If you need to take a break, you need to take a break.
Well, it goes hand in hand with what you're saying about, like, you've spent so much money and time and effort throughout the year to get here. Yeah. In the same sentence that you don't want to do it hungover or drunk, you also don't want to do it burnt out, because that's still a waste of your money and time and effort to get to this
your
point.
audiences. I think I've said before on the show, it's like it does feel like a party. It does feel like a university thing or like a summer camp. But at the same time, this is a trade show, and you're playing your trade.
That's it. I think as well. I'm totally agree with you too. Like, there's nothing worse. Like in previous years when I have had a big night out and then have an earlier show, that anxiety that you get. You're like, why did I drink so much last night? Why did I stay out till 4 a.m. when I knew that I had to do this? And it just makes you more nervous for the thing that you enjoy doing, and it's just not an enjoyable experience. So.
Absolutely. Like there's no drink that's as good as a good show.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's a good tagline.
It's good that,
that's
very good.
The title of your hour next year.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just going to start slipping that into conversation with everybody now in a minute. There's no drink as good as a good show. Bear that in mind.
Where do you like to go when you're here? Where do you hang out? If you want like a bit of peace and quiet.
I don't know. Where have I been since? I quite like the gardens outside my venue, Bristol Square.
Yeah, it's lovely there.
I quite like it there. I haven't bumped into anyone that I don't want to see yet, so that's good. Where else do we? There's a pub.
There's now like 3 gardens out in Bristol Square, isn't there? Because there's I think George Square turns into George Square. There's the new one with the AstroTurf.
Yes, that
it's
one.
quite a garden feel to it.
Yeah, it's quite
and then
nice.
there's then the Assembly Gardens and the Underbelly Gardens further down.
And the Gilded Balloon ones, where they all have a sort of Love Island feel, don't they? It seems to influence, I mean, even in here.
Yeah, it's sort of a celebrity vibe to it. Love Island.
Other than that, if I've got time, I've got all day really, unless I'm doing something else. I like to go, I walk down to Stockbridge, which takes about 40 minutes, and there's loads of charity shops there.
Yeah.
You have some really good charity shops in Edinburgh and vintage stuff.
Yeah,
I
there's
bought
great
2
ones.
vintage suits the other day.
Oh,
That's kind of like my thing. I like vintage suits.
Very
like
nice.
Jackie Kennedy type things.
Nice.
Which are hard to come by in vintage shops, but I do find the occasional treat.
excellent.
Lucy Porter was on yesterday and she was saying that charity shops around here are very good,
Really
particularly on
good.
like the south side. If you go to
Yep.
like Morningside and Marchmont,
Very good.
affluent people just drop in really nice stuff into charity shops.
Where's this?
We'll get you the details.
Okay, yeah, I need to go there.
South of the Meadows,
Right.
where all the houses get really quite big and
Yeah,
nice.
okay, I'll go.
Is a good place to go hang out if you want some bargains, apparently. So you've been here a few times. Have you got some cheeky little quiet hidey holes you like to go and...
Well, it's been I didn't come up last year, so I feel like my knowledge of Edinburgh just dissipates completely, and it takes
They
me a
rebuilt
week
it in
to...
the year that you weren't here.
Yeah, maybe that's why it's
Yeah.
just been to mess with me and nobody mentioned it.
It's what it's called, the New Town. It was
Yeah.
actually just here last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I spend quite a bit of time in here, to be honest, just 'cause I'm staying on Southbridge, so I'm fairly central to things, and I don't really have much of a plan. I just do my show and wander around, and then what I do is largely based on who I bump into. I like to keep it sort of quite loose, generally, but yeah, I like to go up to Calton Hill at least once a year, because everyone talks about Arthur's Seat having a great view, but Calton Hill is just as good,
Yeah.
and you get a real view over the city, and it's quite clear up there, so you can see the stars and that as
And
well.
it's easier to get up
And
as
it's
well.
way easier to get up as well. Yeah.
Very
I
much
did
so.
go up the steep side of Arthur's Seat once, which was just stupid.
Yeah.
Just don't.
I did
My
that.
advice to anyone.
First time I went there, I didn't realise that there was another route. I just like walking straight uphill, and then my legs were like lead for about 3 days afterwards. Which
This
isn't
is good to know because my grandparents are visiting next week and I wanted to take them up Arthur's Seat.
Yeah.
So there's an easy route.
There's a long way around that doesn't involve falling down a hill repeatedly.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
take them that route.
if you attack it from the town, then it's very, very steep.
Right.
But if you kind of go round to the north side of it
Okay.
and then go up, there's a very sort of gentle, well, I wouldn't say gentle, but it's a lot more gentle than the other way.
Okay.
I've never been up. I don't like heights. I've got a phobia, so I don't think it'd be the best thing for me to be up there. Because the flat that I'm staying in, you can see people on the top of it from there, and I'm just like, oh God, what are they doing? Why would you do that? And I'm just watching all these people walking along. Yeah,
We were in a flat last year. It made us feel very guilty because you could see it, and you're like, there are dots. Those are people. They're up there already. It's only 8:30.
There have been shows up there as well.
Really?
People, who have hosted gigs up there. So every patch of space in this city
Is a
is used as a
theatre
venue.
ground, yeah.
We had Barry Ferns on the other day. He set up a fake TripAdvisor site for Arthur's Seat that advertises that it's got free Wi-Fi and restaurants and bars and nightclubs and things. People are going to be very disappointed, I suspect. Natalie, you found yourself some nice places so far to chill out?
This is going to sound so geeky, but I really like the participants centre.
That's not geeky at all. I put this pass on the table every day to remind myself to talk about the participants because it's amazing.
It's so cool, and I don't think like people realise just how much stuff they have on offer there. Like you went the other day and they were doing free massages, and you can go into like the arts industry section and just ask any questions about people you want to connect with at the Fringe, and they'll give you their details. Media, like there's just so much stuff there. There's a cafe.
And it's all free because it's all
It's
paid.
all free,
It's all paid
yeah.
for with your registration
Yeah,
fee.
yeah.
That a lot of people I think just think is like the printing fee to get you in the brochure.
Yeah,
But actually, it's
no,
all of these things that are amazing.
Yeah, and I really enjoy going there.
And it's lovely people. Like
Yeah.
it's full of other
Super
people you can
helpful.
just talk to, and not just the staff, but like just other performers, and just get chatting to people.
Yeah.
We've pledged that we're going to do a lot more of that in the coming week, as well as the live show with kind of people who have shows. We're just going to do a lot more talking to random people and just finding out what they're about.
Yeah.
How do you deal with support while you're here? Do you have a network of people up here? Do you have friends? Do you spend a lot of time contacting people outside of the festival?
I'm figuring out how to balance that at the minute, because I do have people here that have also, brought their shows up with the same producer, so we're in a nice little group, we share an apartment together, so that's nice. But then I'm aware other people are like, oh, you need to have contacts outside the Fringe because you need to be able to escape the Fringe bubble. So I obviously have family and friends that have no concept of what the Fringe is back at home that I can phone, but then because I'm here doing a one-woman show and I'm constantly on my phone doing social media and promotions, I'm not very good with social media, and so being on my phone for too long does get to me mentally, which is one of the reasons why I burnt out on day 7 or 8, because I don't. How some people actually have these jobs that are professional bloggers and social media people, I don't know how they do it, because if I'm on my phone for too long, it literally affects my mental health and I have to put it down. So I got to a point the other day where I really wanted to, phone my sister and my boyfriend and my nan, but I just couldn't pick up my phone. I was like, if I have to look at that phone one more time, I'm going to lose it. And so I couldn't talk to my family back home because I couldn't pick up my phone, and that was when I was like, right, day to myself, yeah.
If you actually do a search for the Into the Unknown hashtag or the @EdFringe thing, it's just a constant stream of thousands of people retweeting reviews, and it does get a bit exhausting.
I'm very much I love life without technology, and I understand that we need it, but I try. This month it's like I've been part of it more than I'm normally part of it because I'm here and I'm at the Fringe, so I'm just kind of people are like, oh, I'll sleep in September. I'm like, oh, I'll put my phone down in September, But just sleep gets to you. Me having to be on my phone and my computer and my laptop constantly was getting to me. So.
Jim, do you have people up here?
Well, yeah, because I've been coming for a long time. And I have a lot of friends up here, and also I'm living with a couple of friends, and we sort of made a point before the Fringe of just saying, okay, look, we're going to be here for each other when it gets weird, because it will, because it's a real roller coaster. I mean, you hear stories of people that get nominated for the award coming home thinking that was awful, that was terrible. Even when it goes as well as it,
so Fringe first, but you couldn't sell the show.
Even when it goes well for some people, it's a really sort of difficult experience for them. So I've done it enough to know that this is quite an intense thing. But again, I was done the same with you, Rachel, but because my show was finished, I actually feel really relaxed up here. I feel like I've worked really hard doing previews to 4 people in July, just doing all of that stuff throughout the year, so that now I can feel relaxed with it. And I feel pretty lucky this year that I'm in that situation, because I haven't been before, and it's tough. You do need people around you, but the hard thing with that is that they're all busy as well. They've got their own stuff going on, and you need to be there for them too. So I think you just have to make sure that you listen to your body if you're feeling burnt out, that you rest and you go to bed early, or you just go and do something that's completely not related to the Fringe if you need a little bit of a break from it, but otherwise just try and be positive as much as you can.
And sometimes it's in the nicest way possible. It's nice to know that other people are struggling, because you can get into a mindset where you think it's just you and everyone else looks like they're having the time of their life and they're having a blast, and then when you speak to other people and they're like, oh no, and you feel like, okay, it's not just me. This
particularly
person
social media is an issue with that, isn't it?
Yeah. This person is struggling too. Okay, great. I feel better now. You can feel better just knowing that someone else is having a hard time in the nicest way possible.
Rich, presumably you have a Facebook page full of other performers, or with a lot of people that are in a similar boat.
Oh, what, like a group?
Well, no, just you're friends with other performers.
Oh yeah, but what I do, I mean, Facebook, I don't really get involved with Facebook.
Right.
I don't log in anymore to Facebook unless I need to, and especially during the Fringe, I just completely don't interact with it other than my professional page on there. I'll put things on there, and that's just people who come to see my show, or people who listen to my podcast that interact with me. So that's quite nice. Twitter, I like Twitter. I go on it quite a lot, but there is a lot of. And I'm guilty of it. I'm proud of my show. I've got a show to sell, so I will retweet praise. I don't care. I'll retweet it. At the end of the day, we show off for a living, so why wouldn't we?
It's only other comedians that care about that, isn't it? So
I know, but why wouldn't you want people to know that your show is good and people are enjoying it? I don't see any problem with that. But sometimes you can't. What brings me down more? I'd say it's people that aren't at the Fringe that are being quite pithy about people that are at the Fringe and sort of commenting on, oh, this person's retweeting this, oh, can't wait till week 3 when you're all crying and stuff like that. It's like, well, you're not here.
Yeah.
And that's by choice. We've chosen to be here and we're actually having quite a good time. So it's that kind of stuff. I'll sort of hide things on there or maybe sort of mute people. But no, I think it's quite nice when I see people going, oh, my show's sold out, or this has happened. It's like, well, that's good. That's really what we're here for. And there's no point comparing yourself to somebody else. And I think that's one of the hardest things. I think a lot of people do come up here, if you're living with comedians, which I am, I think some people could get into a state of mind where they're like, oh, well, that person's doing this, but I'm not, and they've got this and I haven't. You just need to concentrate on yourself. I think that's the bottom line.
I think it's Adam Bloom that says other people's successes are not your failures. And I try to think of that.
Yeah, exactly,
If I ever feel like that. Because it is there's a lot of pressure on you to sort of actually make the best of this 3 weeks and just wring every opportunity out of your show. And you feel like you have that massive the FOMO, the fear of missing out. Like, should I be here or here or talking to that person or doing this? And that's something you have to manage as well. You can't be everywhere at once, so you just need to just enjoy yourself in the places you're in, I think.
Yeah, and also like what a lot of people don't know, or what you're not told, is the shows that look like they're doing amazingly well, that are getting all these nominations and awards, that they've been going for a while, or they've been brought up through the ranks of actually being produced by the venues that are here. So it's a lot easier to have your work recognised if you are at that level. And there are people that are coming for the first time to the Fringe with their own show, and they don't really have any outer support, seeing these other shows that are pretty much just the same as what they're doing, but so much further. And what you don't know is the history of their show and where that show has come from and how long that's actually been going, and the backing that they have.
I think that's certainly something we're trying to do with this show, is like keep everybody friendly. Everybody should smile at each other. Like performers, smile at your venue staff, treat them well, just try and treat everybody better, because we're all sort of climbing the same ladder, and someone else's success is not your failure.
Well, that's the thing as well. Sometimes I think people get so wrapped up in what they're doing. At the end of it all, we've chosen to be here, we want to be here. It's not like we've been forced into it, so we obviously enjoy it. And like when you are doing, you're lucky to be here to be doing your show for an hour if it's something you're proud of. To me, it's when I always look at the flyers, I'm like, they've been out since like 8 o'clock this morning probably, trying to sell shows for us, and just be nice to them. They're the people that I always think that they have a tough Fringe.
Oh yeah, and also, I mean, the people that are producing shows, especially if they're doing a lot of them, that is the hardest job here. That is harder than what we do, because they have so much to do and they don't have a moment to themselves. We're in a nice position, and it's easy to forget that because it's so intense.
Because we'll phone the producer like, we want my ticket sales for tonight. We're sold any more tickets, and they've probably got 8 or 9 people doing the same thing. So it's just, I think being aware of like other people's workload as well is quite important. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's the message for today. Everybody play nice together and behave yourselves and have fun. Thank you so much for coming in and saying hello and telling us about your shows.
Thank you.
All of the details of the shows will be in the description at the bottom of the screen. You can go and see all of these fine people doing their thing. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks very much for stopping by. See you later. And stay hydrated. Very good tip.
I talk about a statistic in my show that scientists conducted research to show the reason that men are attracted to breasts is because it reminds them of their own mothers when they were babies. That's why men are attracted to breasts, because you're thinking about your mum.
I am now. Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's all right. Wait, are all men thinking about my mum's breasts?
No.
All right.
Yeah, just your mother's breasts.